I'm in the big leagues, told him don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding a road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when he throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it, peeling off like the whip orange. Seen they effort, this piss poor. I got
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, aka Ron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, I want to start off by apologizing for missing last Friday. Had some things come up that I just could not avoid, so I unfortunately had to skip last Friday. But we're back now, and that's what matters. We are back, ready to talk some NBA playoffs. Last show was right before the start of the playoffs, and boy, has there been a lot that has happened in these past 2 weeks. So we have to get right into it. So today's show, obviously it's going to be all about the NBA playoffs and what has gone on. I want to talk about where I was wrong. I want to talk about where I was right, where I was kind of right, where I was sort of right. I want to get into all of that. So let's get started. We have to talk about this series first. Where I was wrong, and not just like a little bit wrong, like kind of wrong, where I was completely wrong. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. So, if you're paying attention, if you are an NBA fan, listening to the show, you more than likely are, the Boston Celtics defeated the Brooklyn Nets. And not just defeated them, they swept them. It was a clean sweep, 4-0, like Silk Sonic, a clean sweep. And it wasn't even close. Now, well, let me take that back. In my defense, the games in the series were close. The games in and of themselves. It wasn't like Brooklyn just didn't have a shot to win any of the games at all. But, I mean, if you look at just, the series, it's a best of 7, and one team won 4 games, one team won 0 games. So, series as a whole, it wasn't even close. But Boston defeated Brooklyn, like I said, 4-0. If you look at some of the breakdown of the games, kind of what happened, in game 1, it was a close one. Boston won 115 to Brooklyn's 114. Kyrie Irving had an amazing game. This was Easter Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Kyrie Irving had a monster game, had 39 points. Kevin Durant had an out of character game. He was only, I can't remember how many points he scored in that game, but he did not play well at all. Definitely not what we're used to seeing KD do in the playoffs. Game came down to the last second shot, inbound play. Jason Tatum made the game-winning layup as time expired to win the game. So that was game 1. Boston 115 to Brooklyn's 114. But in game 2, Boston won 114 to Brooklyn's 107. So a slightly wider margin, but still a relatively close game. Now in this game, Brooklyn had a pretty sizable lead in the first half and was playing pretty well and just couldn't hold on to it in the second half at all. Now, credit to the Boston Celtics defense. Major credit to them and their coaching, specifically Ime Udoka's coaching schemes with Kevin Durant. We've seen this kind of before. Doc Rivers and the Los Angeles Clippers did this a couple years ago, 2019, when KD was still with the Warriors. Get up in them, play close, kind of bother them, play low, cause them to, create turnovers. And that is exactly what happened. I believe back-to-back games, he had 6 turnovers. Game 3, I think he had like 5 turnovers. So they definitely... Their defensive scheme that Ime Udoka was implementing was working. So, major second half comeback for the Boston Celtics in Game 2, and they ended up winning 114 to 107 to go up 2-0 back to Brooklyn. Game 3, it's kind of more of the same for the most part. Boston won that game 109 to 103. You got Jason Tatum going off for a monster game, 39 points, and putting on a masterclass defensively against Kevin Durant. Guarding Kevin Durant, arguably as good as anybody has in Kevin Durant's career. We've always talked about how, Kevin Durant, being darn near 7 foot tall, and nobody can block his shot. Well, throughout the course of the series, that happened a couple times where Jason Tatum was able to block Kevin Durant's shot. But playing him on the perimeter did a phenomenal job guarding him throughout this entire series. KD, like I said, was uncharacteristic of himself with the turnovers and the inefficiency that he put in this series. Now, KD, after the game 3, after they lost, basically said he was trying to facilitate and be the facilitator and get his teammates involved. And like, I get what he's saying in that, but like, dude, you're down 0-2, and like, you are widely regarded as one of the greatest, if not the greatest scorer that the NBA has ever seen, and you're trying to be a facilitator. Like, you're not a facilitator, KD. I mean, he's not terrible passing the ball and running the offense. Don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm saying. Like, that is a part of his game, but like, that is not his game. His game is, hey, like, give me the ball and get out of the way. Like, he said it himself back in 2019 with the Golden State Warriors against the Clippers series. It's like, I'm Kevin Durant. Like, he ended up figuring it out, going off for a monster rest of that series against the Clippers. Like, that's the Kevin Durant that should have been in Game 3. But like I said, major credit to the Boston Celtics defense. They played incredibly well against Kevin Durant. So losing that game, and then Game 4, final game of the series, Boston winning 116 to Brooklyn's 112. Again, Brooklyn was in this game. They were leading for a good portion of the game. And then second half, fourth quarter specifically, just, couldn't close the deal. The series was basically all but over. No one's come back from 3-0 in the NBA, in NBA history, which we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show with another team. But no one's come back from 3-0. So the series obviously was all but over. Now, Kevin Durant finally had the scoring output that we were used to. He scored, I believe, 39 points in this series. But it was an inefficient game. I believe he took 31 shots to get 39 points. Not the most efficient series that we expected from Kevin Durant. And then Kyrie Irving was kind of a non-factor for games 2, 3, and 4 as well. So, like I said, I was completely wrong about this series. Boston winning against Brooklyn 4-0, a clean sweep. Now, Brooklyn, I mean, they basically just got outplayed in all areas, offensively, defensively, coaching for sure. I don't know where the heck Steve Nash was on the sideline. He might as well not been there, but that's a story for another day. But major props to Boston, major props to their head coach, Ime Udoka, for the defensive schemes, specifically on Kevin Durant, but specifically for the entire series as a whole. I'm sorry, I doubted y'all. I said this on my Instagram. I'm sorry I doubted y'all, Boston. I know Boston's my second favorite team, my favorite Eastern Conference team. No more. I won't be doubting you again. I apologize. But Ben Simmons was in the headlines as well. Didn't even play a game, but constantly in the headlines. Personally, I'm tired of talking about Ben Simmons. I don't want to talk about him anymore. Pray for the man. Pray for him. Ben Simmons, praying for you, rooting for you. But I don't want to talk about Ben Simmons because, let's just move on from that. But like I said, Boston ended up winning that series 4-0, clean sweep. I was completely wrong. If you remember correctly, I picked Brooklyn in 7, and that series could not have gone any worse than what it did. But let's transition a little bit. Let's talk about where I was right. Let's go ahead and look at the series, another Eastern Conference series, Milwaukee and Chicago. So last night, well, I'm recording this Thursday night, so 2 nights ago when you're listening to this, the Milwaukee Bucks defeated the Chicago Bulls in 5 games, 4-1. And this series pretty much went mostly how I anticipated it would, a gentleman's sweep. Milwaukee won Game 2, surprisingly Milwaukee won Game 1, surprisingly lost Game 2 in a very close game. That was the game that I believe that Chris Middleton got hurt, but decisively won Games 3, 4, and 5. Chicago pretty much got the worst matchup. I remember I was talking about this, one of my coworkers is a big Chicago Bulls fan, but they pretty much got the worst possible matchup for them. Like, if they had played Philly or if they had played somebody else, I could see them making it a longer, more competitive series, but they pretty much got the worst possible matchup. Like, they couldn't do anything with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, they did lose Caruso, unfortunately, to injury again. Lonzo Ball has been out. He hasn't played since January or February, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember his exact injury. And then Zach LaVine also went out with health and safety protocols, and he didn't play Game 4 or 5. So, I mean, that was just a depleted Chicago Bulls roster. So, I mean, I don't really fault them too much, but they didn't really stand a chance, at least in my opinion. Like I did mention, unfortunately, Middleton for the Milwaukee Bucks did get injured in this series. They have announced it as a grade 2 MCL sprain. And they have said he is going to be out, or at least as of right now, for the remainder of the second round. So the Boston Celtics series, he will unfortunately not play. And that's going to be huge because Middleton you can pretty much count on Middleton for 23 to 27 points per game. He is that kind of scorer, can get you 30 on most nights as well. And a pretty solid, underrated perimeter defender. So I think that's going to be big. A big loss for the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not going to give out my predictions for that series just yet, but I think it's going to be a big loss. But in the end, for this Bucks-Bulls series, like I said, Bulls couldn't do anything with Giannis, especially. He averaged 28.6 points, 13.4 rebounds, 6.2 assists per game in that series against the Chicago Bulls. So, like I said, a nice gentleman's sweep for the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. Chicago Bulls, you'll be going home early. Unfortunately, you just got a terrible matchup. But that series went pretty much exactly how I expected, and I was right, picking the Bucks in 5 games in that series. But let's transition again. Let's go ahead and talk about where I have been right so far. And what I mean by that is the series that are playing out how I expected for the most part. So, right now, the Dallas Mavericks and the Utah Jazz are 3-2. If you remember correctly, I had Dallas winning that series in 7. And then you got the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors who are playing right now, which I really, right after this, will be watching that game. That is 3-2 as well. Now, starting with the first series, Dallas and Utah, even though this Dallas and Utah series has been back and forth, it's been pretty uneventful for me for the most part. I think the best game that they had was, what was it? I think it was the game that Luka came back when they went up. Or no, the second game Luka was back. Or no. Yes, game 4 when Utah tied it. That was the first game Luka was back and he was going off, but Utah ended up pulling it out in a pretty exciting game. That game was pretty fun, but other than that, the series has been mostly uneventful. Luka's been great since he has been back, since returning from injury. You can definitely tell, at least I think, in my opinion, he is hungry to advance because he has never advanced past the first round yet, losing to the Clippers in back-to-back seasons. But Utah, I've talked about Utah multiple times. I mean, y'all know how I feel. I just don't take them seriously. Like, even before Stephen A. was talking about how disgusted he was with the Utah Jazz, I just don't see. They're not a contending team. They're a team that is built for the regular season. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. They're missing Joe Ingles. He's out with injury. Bogdanovich is actually pretty solid, underrated. I actually like his game quite a bit. But I just don't take them seriously. Even if they were to advance in this series and play more than likely play Phoenix in the first round, if Phoenix can get past the Pelicans, which Devin Booker is playing right now tonight in New Orleans. But that's a story for another day. But even if they advance to meet Phoenix, and they wouldn't beat Phoenix. Phoenix would make quick work of them. I wouldn't see that series going more than 5 games personally. But yeah, Utah and Dallas is going pretty much how I expected it so far. I wouldn't be shocked if Utah wins tonight and it becomes a game 7 going back to Dallas. But I kind of hope that Dallas ends up wrapping up the series tonight. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But the other series that I mentioned, Philadelphia and Toronto, 3-2 as of right now. Game 6 is going on not as you're listening to this, it would be last night. But it's going on right now as I'm recording. And let me check the score of that game because I'm curious. Sixers and Raptors. Let's see right now. 48-46 with about 5 minutes left in the second half. Raptors up by 2. So, oh no, trouble in Philly. But, I've been right so far with this Philadelphia and Toronto Raptors series, but not in the way that I expected. So, obviously, the Sixers went up 3-0 in this series, winning the first 3 games. But now it's 3-2. Now, I really want Philly to win tonight because obviously if Philly wins, I'll have predicted the team and the series correctly. I want Philly to win tonight, but the pressure is mounting. The pressure is mounting. Joel Embiid is playing with an injury to his thumb, I believe. He got a torn ligament, I believe they said, in his thumb. James Harden has, big-time games, has shrunk mightily, and we have not, what James Harden are we going to get? Are we going to get Houston Rockets James Harden? Are we going to get pre-hamstring injury Brooklyn Nets James Harden? What are we going to see? Is he going to step up in this game and close this series out? And then Doc Rivers was just talking about an interview yesterday how, he doesn't get enough credit for, teams in the past and games they did close out and all that stuff. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. The pressure is mounting. Go out there and perform. Obviously, the players have to execute. I totally get that. I'm on board with that. But you got to do your job. There's a common denominator where teams that you have been the head coach of, Doc, have not closed out games when you have had leads in series. So it's happened far too often with Doc Rivers. So Sixers better close it out tonight. If this goes back to Philly in a Game 7, I mean, I know I picked the Sixers to win this series, but like, I say the Raptors pull off the unthinkable and become the first team in NBA history to come back from a 0-3 deficit. Like I said, no one has done that before. Now it's happened in Major League Baseball. They've come back from I think it was the Red Sox coming back against the Yankees down from 0-3 like 17, 18 years ago, something like that. And I want to say it's happened in hockey. I don't really know a whole lot about hockey other than know what they say in hockey. Do that hockey. But I think it's happening in hockey as well. But somebody's got to do it, right? It's got to happen eventually. I mean, we never thought we'd see a 16 beat a 1 in the NCAA tournament, and that happened just a couple years ago when Virginia lost. So somebody's got to do it. Why not Toronto? And that was just, as I was watching the game before I started recording, that was Nick Nurse, the head coach of the Toronto Raptors' message to the team. Why not us? And if they end up winning this Game 6, whoo, boy, the ramifications, everybody's getting fired. Everybody's getting fired. Down to Doc Rivers, or up from Doc Rivers all the way down to the janitor that works at the team facility. Everybody's getting fired if they end up blowing this series after being up 3-0. But we shall see. I mean, those are the games where I have been right so far up until this point. But let's talk about the games, or series, I should say, where I have been kind of right. And I'll explain what I mean by that, where I've been kind of right. Essentially, the Miami Heat have advanced to the second round, and the Golden State Warriors have advanced to the second round. I picked both of those teams, but the manner in which they won, I did not pick in that manner. So, like I said, I picked both teams, not correct on the amount of games. So, Miami completely destroyed Atlanta. A gentleman's sweep as well, 4-1. I definitely anticipated that being a longer series. I picked Miami to win in 7, just because I thought, Trae Young, John Collins, and all those boys would put up more of a fight. But boy, was I wrong about that. Their defense on Trae Young was incredible. They put a masterclass against him and pretty much neutralized him the entire series. I think he only had one good game. Held him to single-digit scoring in multiple games. Game 5, you had no Kyle Lowry, no Jimmy Butler, and had no problem beating the Atlanta Hawks, closing that series out in 5 games. Victor Oladipo and Bam Adebayo had incredible games in that Game 5. I honestly totally forgot that Victor Oladipo was on the Miami Heat. He's dealt with some pretty significant injuries over the past couple seasons, but he was balling out in Indiana. He was an all-star when he got traded to Indiana. He is a perennial, 22 to, I'd say 25 points per game scorer before his injuries. So I totally forgot he's on this team. I think he's only on a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. So Miami's deep. Miami is I know they got the number 1 seed, but they are better than I expected. But they ended up winning that series pretty handily in 5 games. Like I said, a gentleman's sweep. The other series that I mentioned where I was kind of sort of right was the Golden State Warriors. They beat the Denver Nuggets in 5 games. I picked the Golden State Warriors to win in 7, mostly because of the uncertainty around Steph Curry's injury. But that boy looked healthy to me. He is back in regular Steph Curry shoot the lights out green light mode. They won in 5, like I said, against a Denver team that really just could not keep up offensively. I mean, Jokic, who was my pick for MVP, probably won't win it, but my pick, was the only one to generate any consistent offense, and he did his part. Multiple 30-point games in this series, multiple double-digit rebound games. I think he had 19 rebounds in one of those games. High assist numbers, but it really just was not enough. It was basically the Golden State Warriors versus Nikola Jokic. That's kind of how it looked. Aaron Gordon was decent. Monte Morris was decent, but not enough. I mean, if Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. were playing, I definitely think it would have been a longer series, maybe even 6 or 7 games like I anticipated. But they were just outmatched by the scoring output. I mean, Steph coming off the bench, the greatest 6-man who's ever played the game, Steph Curry. Come on now. Klay Thompson had averaging 23, 24 points per game. Jordan Poole playing like a freaking all-star. He's only the 3rd player to, they showed one of the, those funny statistics they show for the team. Basically in the class of Wilt Chamberlain and Mitch Richmond scoring 30 points in their debut playoff game for the Golden State Warriors. So some incredible company that Jordan Poole is in. Golden State looks like they're back in championship form. They got those pieces around their big 3, Steph, Klay, and Draymond. You had Andrew Wiggins, who's been playing pretty well so far. Had a great season. He was an all-star starter this season. He's had a pretty good playoff, pretty good series against the Denver Nuggets, I should say. Like I said, Jordan Poole adding to their, I don't know what they're calling their ultra mega death lineup now, like with Steph, Clay, Draymond, Poole, and Wiggins, if I'm not mistaken. So no big man, but they look like they're back in championship form. I would not be shocked, nor would I be surprised if Golden State makes it back to the finals, especially the way this Minnesota and Memphis series is going. But it's pretty good stuff from the Golden State Warriors. But last thing that I want to talk about are the NBA awards that have been announced up until this point. The NBA regular season awards. You have, most improved, rookie of the year, defensive player, all those. So I just want to talk about those before I wrap up tonight's show or today's show. So most improved player went to Ja Morant, point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies, which this award didn't really sit right with me because he was the rookie of the year, and he also made the rookie of the year to the most improved player. Like, he was already that dude last year or 2 years ago. If I'm not mistaken. I don't know how long he's been playing now. I'm tripping. But anyway, he was already rookie of the year, so he was already that dude. And yeah, he's the most improved player. Like, he was all-star, everything like that. So I really get that. I mean, I know I'm biased. I thought DeJounte Murray should have won it, but that's neither here nor there. Ja Morant, most improved player of the year. Rookie of the year goes to Scotty Barnes, which when I went to my early season predictions for this season, who did I pick for Rookie of the Year? Oh, I picked Jalen Green. Oh, that was a mistake. But yeah, Scotty Barnes was the Rookie of the Year, which, yeah, he's had a pretty solid year. So that made sense. So shout out to him. Congratulations to him. Defensive Player of the Year. This one was a surprise to me. Marcus Smart, the Boston Celtics guard, winning Defensive Player of the Year for the first time since 1996 when good old Gary Payton, a.k.a. The Glove, won it for the Seattle Supersonics. So solid perimeter defender, I think, is going to be incredible in that series against the Bucks. I mean, Drew Holiday and Marcus Smart, two of the league's best perimeter defenders. I think it was Charles Barkley. He was like, man, that's going to be great. Like, nobody's going to score out of the two of them. They're just going to play incredible defense against each other. So that should be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to that. But the awards that we have not had announcements for as of yet. Coach of the Year is between Taylor Jenkins of Memphis, Eric Spoelstra of Miami, and Monty Williams of Phoenix. I definitely think Monty Williams should have won it last year, personally, over Tom Thibodeau. So I think Monty Williams will probably end up getting it this year, but we'll see. Sixth Man of the Year, Tyler Hero pretty much has that on lock. Like, he's been the best sixth man all year. Like, and it's not even close. At least in my opinion, it's not. So Tyler Hero should win that one. Cam Johnson and Kevin Love are also nominated, which solid choices too, but I think Tyler Hero's got that award unlocked. And then MVP, the finalists are Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. To be expected. I mean, Embiid is probably going to win. Jokic is my pick, who I, raved about, talked about all season, said how, why I thought he was the right choice. But Joel Embiid more than likely is going to win the MVP. But still waiting on those announcements. That should happen over the next couple weeks. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you fine folks. I missed you so much. I'm glad to be back on this fine Friday or whatever day you're listening to this, because I know some people listen to it later, which is fine too. I appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If you can do all the good things on all the socials at Another Turnover, follow, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watching on YouTube, if you can do the same. Hope you have a wonderful weekend coming up this weekend. It's gonna be like Instinct said. It's gonna be May. It's gonna be May 1st on Sunday. Should be some good playoff basketball happening all weekend. But thank you again for listening. I appreciate you. I love you. Take care. And I'll see you next week. I'm 10-2, too much that I've been through, so I put it all in that rear view. Clean money in a black whip, got old problems with the friends new. Yeah, I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. Yeah, I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Yeah, told him I'ma hit it out the stands. I deserve another 100.